everybody and welcome back. My name is Mel and today we're going to be doing my series I want to start in 2023. So I started a lot of series last year. I shouldn't have, but I did. I didn't complete that many, so yeah. But of course there are a ton of series that have piled up over the last year that I really want to read in 2023. I can't stop, won't stop. It's just I'm going to continue to start series. It's just who I am as a person, but hopefully we can clear some off next year too. But I have several series sitting behind me that I'm very interested in making a priority in 2023. These are books that came onto my radar this year that I've been really excited about, and I'm excited and I'm hopeful that I can at least get a jump start on all of them. Some of them are only 1 or 2 books long so far, so maybe I can even catch up or complete a couple of series in the stack as well. So I guess without further ado, let's just jump into the ones that I want to get started on. And foremost is The Pariah by Anthony Ryan. This is an author that I've had on my radar for a while now, and this is one of 2 series that I actually own by him, The Pariah, and then I also have The Waking Fire sitting behind me. I think of the 2, I'm most interested in The Pariah. This is a revenge type story where we have a guy where he's been raised as an outlaw in the woods. He's happy with his life, but then a betrayal happens and this leads him to be part of the king's army. And he is under the command of Lady Evadine, who is a noblewoman that has visions of demonic apocalypse, and he has got to work with her to try to get his vengeance and survive deadly intrigues of nobility. So it sounds interesting. It sounds like a pretty basic fantasy story, but I know that Rachel really enjoys this one, and Rachel's read like everything, so if it were basic I think she would tell me, and I'm excited. It's one that has, I think, gonna be finished this year. I think it's a trilogy and the last book comes out in 2023. I'm not positive, don't quote me on that, but if that's the case then I could start and complete a series all in 1 year. So really excited for this one. And then we have another Rachel recommendation, and that is The Thousand Deaths of Arter Ben by Tyler Whitesides. This is a really big book. That's why I have not started it yet, and you're gonna see that come up quite frequently here in just a little bit. And this is about Arter Ben, who is a thief. He is the master of a lot of different heists, and I love a good heist story, so already ticking off some buzzwords. And he gets hired for his most dangerous job yet, and he knows he's got to hire a bunch of other thieves and schemers, disguisers, forgers to help him pull this off, because it's going to require more than just his usual quick wit and sleight of hand. But soon it becomes clear that this is not just his regular old job, and he might be the only hope for civilization. That escalated quickly. So I'm excited to start this, I think, trilogy, hopefully next year. And then while we're talking about chunkers, we might as well go through Legacy of Ash by Matthew Ward. This one came on my radar, of course, through Cassidy, and she read it way earlier this year, I think, and really enjoyed it. She said it kind of slumps in the middle, but it ended up, I believe, being a 4-star book for her, I think. And that had me really intrigued because Cassidy doesn't give out any more 4 stars than I do. So if it's a 4-star read for her, it's worth checking out, especially considering we have like basically the same fantasy taste. So if you're watching my channel and not watching hers for some reason, what are you doing with yourself? I digress. So we definitely have a multi-perspective story here, and there's a shadow that has fallen over the Republic, but where the Republic falls, heroes are going to rise. We have a Republic's champion who is a warrior. We also have this Republic's champion's sworn enemy. He's a political prisoner. And then we also have a sister who seeks to break free of tarnished legacy. There is war, there are differences, and this group must come together to try to save their homeland. Love a good multi-perspective story. Love a good like coming together to save kind of story. Sounds like there's going to be war in here, and I like a good political military type fantasy, so very interested in this one. The only reason I've been putting it off is because he huge. And then next up we have The Black Prism by Brent Weeks. This is one that I feel like is a fantasy staple that I just have not gotten to yet. Its magic system is compared to Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson, where it's a pretty hard magic system involving color, and that really intrigued me when I heard that. Didn't really need to know more about it because I like a hard magic system. I like me some Brandon Sanderson, and so I'm really interested to give this one a try. It's been sitting on my shelf probably the longest out of this stack, which means I have got want to get to it in 2023. Next up is The Thousand Names by Django Wexler. This is, I believe, a flintlock fantasy. If you've been watching my channel, then you know that I read my first Django Wexler this year and absolutely loved it. I've actually completed the Ashes of the Sun series, and then I also read Hard Reboot by him, and they were just such a good time. I had so much fun, but they were a little bit of that line between young adult and adult. I would say that it's a really good like new adult type fantasy, but normally you only hear that in terms of fantasy romance, which it is not. It is an epic fantasy with a dash of romance. Anyway, this one is more of his adult fantasy, and I'm so excited to try it. Rachel really enjoys this series, and she's the one that put me on the Django Wexler train in the first place, and I can't wait to give this one a go. I will say that I've been told that Powder Mage is also a flintlock fantasy and that they didn't think it was as good as this one, so that I should probably read that one first, which means that Promise of Blood by Brian McClellan should probably be on this list too, but I only had so much room in this stack, so put Promise of Blood on here too. We're gonna read that one in 2023. We're hopefully gonna start this one in 2023. We're just gonna be living the fantasy flintlock life. Then I have Elborn by Daniel T. Jackson. This is an indie that I have been screamed at multiple times to start. It intimidates me a little bit. I'm not really sure why. It's not a tiny book. The print is kind of tiny. I'll be honest, I don't know why it scares me, but it does intimidate me just a little bit. But this is the year. This is the year I'm gonna start it. The second book comes out sometime this year as well, so I'll have it just like on hand, ready to go. And you may be wondering, where's A Touch of Light on this list, which is also an indie fantasy. I'm gonna be reading the first book of that one this year, so it can't go on next year's list. So talking about Elborn, this is about it's a religion, I think, based fantasy. We've got, I want to say, 4 different characters that are beginning to develop supernatural abilities, but these powers are forbidden, and they're gonna have to try to figure out how to live their lives and confront a mystery of an ethereal gate that haunts their dreams. It involves conflict. I think there is love and romance in here. It is, like I said, a religion-based fantasy, so I'm excited / a little terrified. And next up, we have the good old Spine of the Dragon by Kevin J. Anderson. If you've been around, you have seen me, I'm sorry, this cover is glaring on my ring light. You have seen me mention this one in the past. It was gifted to me by Rachel. She sums it up way better than anyone ever could. So it's a political dragon book with empires comparing eggplants while the world ends. I don't need to know anymore. I just know I need to start this series. I also think that the latest one just came out this week, so now there are 3. I need to binge them. I gotta get on it. Then we have The Ember Blade by Chris Wooding. This one I've been putting off a little bit because we didn't know when we were getting the sequel, but the sequel has been announced and it is coming out in February. So it is time for me to read The Ember Blade. Been really excited about this one. I mean, look at that cover. It is absolutely gorgeous. This one says that it's Lord of the Rings for the modern generation, and it's an epic fantasy full of history, depth, and adventure. It's about a land under occupation, a legendary sword, a young man's journey to find his destiny. It does sound somewhat classic fantasy, which I don't always love, but I can appreciate a good throwback to fantasy roots as long as it kind of does its own thing. And I've heard so many good things about this that I'm just really hopeful that I'm absolutely gonna love it. All right, next up we have The Bladed Faith by David Deglish. This is another revenge type story. It's about a young man who is a prince and he sees his family murdered in front of him. He gets thrown into prison, and then he manages to escape and has to don the personality of the Vagrant, who is a legendary like assassin, and try to get his revenge. I have heard that I might not love this one as much as I want to, so I do have as a backup David Deglish's other series, which is Soul Keeper, but I don't know, I'm really interested in The Bladed Faith, and I want to know why I've been told I'm not gonna like it, to be honest. I know that it's supposed to be pretty action-packed. I know that it is a lot of training and focused on revenge, and maybe it might be a little monotonous, but I don't know. There's just something about this one that's calling to me that I really want to start. But I'll be honest, as much as I absolutely adore this cover, I hate the cover of the second book, so that does sad me a little bit. Apparently I'm just a superficial reader. Anyway, moving on to the The Grace of Kings by Ken Liu. This is another highly, highly praised, beloved fantasy series with the fourth book having just come out this year. I don't know a absolute ton about this, but I want to read it soon because the Broken Binding did a absolutely gorgeous set of this series, and think they're going to be doing another like all black set sometime next year, and I want to know if I enjoy this book before I purchase that one. I've heard it is slow, but a ton of people loved this. It is, I believe, a military type fantasy, and I need to know. I need to know what the love is about. I need to know if I'm gonna love it, so this is a 2023 must. And then of course it can't all be fantasy, so we gotta throw in a little bit of sci-fi here, and is The Velocity Weapon by Megan O'Keefe. I did a reading like the first sentence, first chapter thing with this year, and honestly wanted to drop my entire TBR to pick this up because I loved the first little bit so much. Unfortunately, I did not get a chance to do that, so it's making it on the absolute must of 2023 list. This is a space opera, and the last thing Sandra remembers is her gunship breaking around her, and then she wakes up 230 years later and no one is around. The war is lost and the star system is dead. Really, really interested in this. I've heard pretty good things about it, and it's my year of sci-fi, so we're definitely putting a sci-fi book on the list. Okay, and then I had a couple of others that I wanted to quickly mention to you guys that I don't physically have, so let's pull those up really quick. The first one is Parasite by Mira Grant, and Mira Grant is also the pseudonym for Shauna McGuire. She writes a lot of her horror and sci-fi under this Mira Grant name, and Parasitology was not one that I even knew about. I think it was Deb maybe that mentioned it and brought it to my attention because I read Into the Drowning Deep several years ago, really enjoyed it, and then just recently read Feed by her and absolutely loved it. So I want to pick up more of Mira Grant's sci-fi horror. And this one is a decade in the future where humanity thrives in the absence of disease or sickness. Sounds pretty standard. We owe our good health to a humble parasite that has been genetically engineered by the Symbogen Corporation. Once this tapeworm is implanted, it protects people from illness and helps boost their immune systems. And now, almost 30 years later, pretty much everybody has one of these tapeworms living within them. But the parasites are getting restless and they want their own lives, and they will do anything to get it. Sounds interesting. Sounds slightly zombie, slightly, I don't know. I'm down for it. I'm here for it. So I'm really excited to read that one. And then we also have The Kingdom of Liars by Nick Martell. It is a story about secrets and rebellion and murder. It is about a world called the Hollows where magic costs memories to use, and only the son of the king's despised traitor holds the truth. Don't really know what that means, but I think it's really interesting about a magic system where you have to use memories to fuel the magic. That sounds really cool to me. Okay, we have our main character who is branded a traitor as a child because they think that his father killed the king's 9-year-old son. And Michael knows that there is something in the hot white emptiness of his mind. So when the opportunity arrives for him to fold back into court via the most politically dangerous member of the king's royal council, he takes it desperate to find a way back past. But the truth holds a set of shocking revelations that will completely change the Hollows if Michael and his friends and family can survive long enough to see it. Absolutely adore this cover. Like I said, the magic system sounds really interesting, so I would love to be able to start the Legacy of Mercenary Kings next year. And I think last but not least is going to be Kingfall by David Estes. This is another indie fantasy series that I've been really looking forward to. David Estes has two different ones, Kingfall and I think Fate Mart, and both of them sound really good, so it was kind of a coin toss as to which one I do want to start in 2023, but I think I have the audiobook of this one, so that's the one we're going to go with first. It says, Warring Kingdoms, Ancient Blades, Dragon Riders, and Godlings, a growing evil that threatens to destroy the world. I'm here for it. I am here for it. I think it's quite long. If I'm reading this right, it says start your 5,000 page epic adventure today. That's a lot of pages. This first book alone is 818 pages, but it sounds good, and I've heard good things. So fingers crossed that it's a quick read because that's a long book. Okay, everybody, so that is however many series I managed to talk about that I want to start in 2023. I know most of these are fantasy. We've got one horror. I wanted to find more thriller or horror series, but there's just not that many of them. So of course this leaned more fantasy, and then sci-fi sci-fi series that I want to start. I'm excited for 2023. Just looking at the stack makes me excited. Like I want to start one right now, but I'm not going to. We're gonna wait, and these are gonna be 2023 series. Let me know down in the comments what series you are excited and overjoyed, I guess, to start in 2023. I would love to get some recommendations. If you guys enjoyed this video, as always, please give it a big thumbs up. You can find links to my Patreon, Instagram, Twitter, and Goodreads all down in the description box below. I hope you guys enjoyed. Subscribe if you wanna, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.